Okay, can you see me?
Yeah, we can see and hear you.
There we are, lovely.
Sorry for the delay there, Phil. Sorry for the delay, and thank you for joining, and thank you for downloading Teams, because obviously we're transitioning into this new platform, which I think is better. I think Teams is much better anyway. So
much better.
I think it'll work. I think it'll work better in the long run. So it's a bit of trial and error. So Phil, there's a few issues that we are in quorum again. So there's only 2 councillors here today, which is myself and Carrie, and we've had apologies of 3 people in like the last hour. So illness, somebody just said, I'm terribly sorry, I can't come, my parking, and Sarah can't come for this item because she's on the planning committee. So she actually can't come for this item. So we've just had a bit of a discussion about how to proceed. So we're all keen to proceed. What we'll do is we've got a really long agenda. There's about 11 agenda items, which includes Lydia giving an update, some funding application carried forward for Castlewood Paths. There's a whole load of things that we want to kind of work through. Moved the 5G item from the bottom, it was at the bottom of the end or towards the end to the top, just so it means you're not necessarily hanging around if you disappear after the item you've got interest in.
Okay, thank you.
So I've sent, just to kind of preface it, so this is a really complicated issue. So I've sent everyone an email this afternoon, including the co-opted members. There's 4, Phil, for you, but 2 of them are not here, and obviously you can see Peter and Chris are here, and Lydia. We're going to do all the apologies for absence after this item, because Sarah will come into that bit then. So I've sent everyone an email, Phil, with kind of summarising what I think the situation.
We keep losing you, Helen.
Oh, crumbs. I'll knock my camera off.
Okay.
I've sent everyone an email, Phil, including the co-opted members that won't necessarily have seen the letter and the information that you've sent to councillors. So I just wanted to make sure that everyone's had information. And I've also included in that email the 5 questions. So I think, Phil, I'll bring you in a minute because it's important, obviously, that you speak and things. So if I can preface the situation. So there's a proposal from the telecom company for a 5G mast in Males. Myself, Chris, Tim and Amelia, the local councillors, have all kind of voiced concern to varying degrees. I mean, Chris is probably more involved than I am about this. No planning application has come through. We think it'll go through Chris's assessment from advice. It'll go through with permitted development. So basically, there are a lot of concerns from within the community, which I guess Males residents, of which Phil is a member and a kind of a lead of, are collating and coordinating a kind of a campaign around this really. And Phil has done loads of research and has put together a number of letters for MPs, MSs, leader of the council, all of us as community councillors, outlining the case for why, he feels and others feel this is a cause for concern. So I've sent everyone a lot of information. Everyone should have had a chance to kind of look at the letter, may have seen it previously anyway. Phil, I think you can correct me if I'm wrong here, right? But the ask I think you have of MCC, isn't it, is there's some very complicated questions which you'd like us to answer, which I think it's very difficult for us to answer them in an informed way. But you'd also like a statement around MCC's position on 5G more generally in Mumbles. I think, from my perspective, the way I was thinking it'd be useful personally to handle this conversation is obviously it's important to listen to people like Phil and others. I personally don't feel I can really authoritatively answer the 5 questions. However, I think this committee's interest in, declaring a climate emergency, in our net zero aspirations as a council, in the kind of the wildlife and biodiversity aspirations that we are kind of forwarding. There are implications potentially for those things. So I think that's something I'm really interested in exploring with the committee members, their take on. And also the second thing, that if this is permitted development, there won't be any formal community consultation. And I think, that is obviously quite concerning. These things just kind of go through a process, whereas involvement isn't part of that. So the kind of involvement bit, the lack of consultation, and the committee's take on the nature and carbon effects, I think they're the things I feel are relevant to this group. So I'm going to button up now. I'm going to ask Phil, I know like you've got tons to say, but I wondered whether you could offer a succinct statement that you feel sets out where you're coming from, what you feel this committee needs to be mindful of, given its remit, and whether we then can have a discussion around what is it that we could do, or how do we want to take a position on it? It has to go to full council. How is that worked through? So are people happy with approaching it in that way?
Yeah, that's fine. I think, yeah, you know, obviously we have got a massive agenda. So if Phil could be very brief, you know, just sort of, you know, supplement. I mean, to be honest, I haven't had a chance to read any of it in any depth because I've been out all afternoon and, you know, but I have it there. We can look at it. We don't need it to be kind of gone through in detail because we do have that to look at. So really, I think if you could just very briefly outline your concerns, and then, you know, we can see where we go from there.
Yeah,
Is that okay, Phil?
Yeah, certainly. So, I'll say, I think us as residents, you as a community council, Swansea Council as our county council, and the government shouldn't just blindly accept the guidelines as they are. They've been severely criticised by people who work for ICNIRC. There have been literally thousands of studies that have done not only on 5G, but on 2G, 3G and 4G, since Wi-Fi first came out in the mid-1990s, and a significant number of those studies show adverse either public health effects, adverse effects on wildlife, on the environment, on ecology, on pollinators. But all those concerns have just been set aside because purely, and I believe many others do, for economic considerations. So, as I say, we as residents and as a community council shouldn't just blindly accept it, but we should question that guidance. And the only studies that have been done specifically on 5G, I think there's over 500 studies that have been done. Only 3 of them have been modulated at the frequencies of 5G, and they all show harmful effects. One of which is electrosensitivity that can occur at levels well below those set by the guidelines. And they found that even at vanishing low levels, it has a significant impact on wildlife. Now, wildlife, ecology, and the environment doesn't even feature within the guidelines. And I don't think this is something we can blindly ignore and think that everything is right. There was a German study done in 2017 which collated data over a 27-year period, and that found a 75% reduction in the number of actively flying insects. There was a similar study done in the UK, and that found a 58.5% reduction too. So there is correlation there, and neither study could explain that, and they couldn't explain it away just on the environment and change of farming, climate change. There has to be something else, and this something else is the EMF that they are being subjected to. Many will use the argument that the natural background radiation, which we are all, all forms of living life are actually exposed to, then the 3, the 4 and the 5G isn't any different to that. But if we just look at 3G alone, it's not 1,000 times greater than the Earth's natural radiation. It's not 1,000,000 times greater than the Earth's natural radiation. Not even 1 billion times. It's actually 1,000 million billion times greater, and that's just 3G. When 5G is added into it, it just creates a huge amount of electrosmog that has a significant and detrimental effect on every living species. So these are not my concerns. I share the concerns of like 3,500 medical practitioners that have signed the PHIRE, the 430 scientists and medical practitioners that have signed the international appeal, and the literally hundreds of thousands of individuals from 216 nations and territories that have signed the 5G deal. But all these concerns have been brushed aside and they don't feature within the planning policy. And as you rightly say, we as residents, we haven't got any say on whether we've been exposed to this or not, haven't got a say on where this is all going. And say I would like Mums Community Council at least to review these concerns and hopefully voice those to the decision makers. So that's all I've got to say for the minute. Thank you.
Sorry, thank you, Phil, because I know that you've done a huge amount of research on this and the information that you've been sharing. You know, you sent that councillor letter, you know, some time ago, and it's so detailed. Phil, Peter, you were first, and then Carrie.
Okay, Helen, thank you very much for my opportunity to speak at this meeting. As Phil will realise, I'm a co-opted member, so I don't have a vote, Phil, but I do have a voice. This is not the first time that I've taken part in a discussion about 5G at a committee level. The committee that I used to chair on Swansea Council, maybe about 3 years or so ago now, maybe more, looked at this issue, and indeed we invited a lady by the name of Rosemary Mason, that some of you may have heard of, to come along and talk, which she did very eloquently and I thought very persuasively on the issue in terms of 5G impacts on wildlife and insect life in particular. I must confess, in that time I've not focused very much on 5G, but nevertheless this meeting has required me to do so. And I have read the letter that Phil and many others, including Chris, have signed. I'm very impressed by it, very well researched, very persuasive, and very much a convincing case. When I recall the discussion that my committee, as it then was on Swansea Council, had a few years ago, and I had previously discussed it with the leader, Rob Stewart, he dismissed the whole issue of 5G. He said it was crazy, put up by nonsensical people, or whatever phrase he used, I can't remember, but it was very dismissive, shall we say, of the case against 5G. I'm not. I'm very persuaded by the case on reflection against 5G, not least having read very carefully this letter. Could I just quickly quote, and I would stress, just quote, some of you may be familiar with a book, Silent Earth, not Silent, not the Rachel Carson book, but one that was published just 2 years ago by a guy called Dave Goulson, who works on insect life, amongst other things. And quoting in this book, I looked it up, thinking 5G, must have said something about it. Just because some people are crazy does not mean that 5G has no consequences for health of the people or wildlife. It seems to me that it would be sensible to investigate this properly before plunging ahead. 4G technology is pretty amazing already, enabling almost everybody on the planet to download a constant stream of trivia and meaningless prattle at prodigious speed. What a sense of humour, this guy. Is it such a great hardship if it occasionally takes a couple of seconds for your social media feed to refresh? Could we struggle on for a few more years? Could we struggle on for a few more years and do a little more research on the safety before rolling out 5G? And that's the conclusion of someone who's worked very extensively on the whole issue, particularly the impact on pollinating insects, especially bees and so forth. And just very quickly, I know that we've got a long agenda and all that, but this is a serious issue that I think requires proper discussion. I don't think that, taking account of the thinking that moreover in what I've just read, 5G is just not needed. I don't know who's pressing for it. Obviously, the companies behind it are. And there are people who seem to be attracted and welcome any development, as they would call it, inverted commas, that is progressive. And I don't see this as necessary or progressive. And I would fall back on the precautionary principle. We don't know what the impact of this might be, although there's considerable evidence to suggest that we do know what it is likely to be. But we do need more time, more research, etc., etc. And in the meantime, we should hold to the precautionary principle that we don't know what the dangers are, and therefore we shouldn't undertake a scheme of this kind. So that's my position. I fully support Phil and Chris on this issue. Thank you, Helen.
You're on mute, Helen.
Helen,
I've got a sticky mute. I was trying to unmute myself, a sticky mute. I say that all the time in work. Yeah, Carrie,
yeah.
What are your thoughts on this?
Yes. I mean, I'm no expert, and I honestly, that it's like all these things, you can read 20 different studies and they'll all say something different. I'm not really fully understanding of the difference and why 5G would be so much more significantly detrimental to 4G, which I believe the mast that is currently there is 4. And yeah, I mean, 4G seems fine, so I can agree on that, but I don't know what the impact is of 5G over and above 4G, so I can't really comment on that. But what I'm thinking is this is not something that's just happening in males. There's obviously going to be 5G masts required across everywhere. Certainly there will be others, presumably, that the companies will want put up in other parts of the MCC area. So I'm thinking really what we need to do, rather than just saying, oh, we either support or are against this particular mast, what we need to do as a community council is perhaps actually look at, the area as a whole and actually come up with a policy on the whole 5G situation right across the MCC area. So I think rather than as just, making some decision about this particular mast, that we actually take it to full council and suggest perhaps that we form some sort of small working group to really look at this whole thing in depth, to look at where we're likely to be impacted across the MCC area. And then, and it would obviously, we would have to involve some element of consultation with our residents, because, well, I understand, that there is these people in Males who are very angry. We have to look at the area as a whole, and we have got 16,000 residents, and we need to make sure that we're putting the case to all of them equally. So what I'm suggesting, Phil, is that we take this to full council and suggest we look at a way in which we can really get to grips and a full understanding of exactly what the impact of this will be over and above what is already here. What is already here, whatever our views are, we're stuck with it. So there's very little we can do about that. But whether there is any value in us putting a lot of effort into preventing the upgrades, or whether in fact the reality is that that they're not going to actually impact that much more significantly than the 4G masts that are already there. So I think that's really the best I would suggest that we can do now. We're not quorate, we can't make any decisions anyway. It's only an informal chat, But what we could do is take it to, you know, and Ian can put it on the agenda for full council as a recommendation from the environment, not from the committee because we're not quorate, but, you know, a request that we actually look at this across the MCC area as a whole, and we actually make a kind of a judgment in terms of a policy that actually meets, you know, the needs of MCC and fits with our, you know, best fits with our climate policies across the whole of the MCC area.
Okay, I'll bring, before we go into a discussion with the solar, and I am conscious of the time, I'm going to bring Chris
Yeah.
in.
Yeah,
Thanks,
we
Carrie.
really need to be finished by 7 or we're never going to get through the rest.
Oh, I'll make
Fast,
it quick.
Chris.
Okay. Yeah, so my current position is that the Welsh Government issued guidance to all county councils. As far as I'm concerned, that guidance is not Future Generations Act compliant. The reason being is it just does not take biodiversity into account in any way, shape or form. All it says is you either look at human health, or you look at sighting, or you look at visual impact. That is not Future Generations compliant, and we should be looking at that, or we could refer it to the Future Generations who unfortunately can't do casework. It's because there's no teeth. So that's one of the problems with the Future Generations Act, is we need to look at.
Yeah, we get letters all the time. You wouldn't believe it, the letters we get, honestly, and they're heartbreaking. Can't do anything, it's awful, so annoying.
Hi,
okay, yeah, so Chris, we had a couple of oh, hi, Sarah, we're still discussing the item.
Oh, I'll leave.
We got 1 minute left. Okay, right, so Chris, so you're progressing that vein of conversation, of kind of exploration, you're progressing that bit around the act, and we've been in conversation a bit around that, haven't we? Just okay, so Phil, what's your, so I guess we got the proposal from Carrie. I mean, that's right, we can't even make a decision tonight anyway, but I think Carrie's proposal is quite a sensible one, because I think even if there was just 2 of us, even if there's just 3 of us here tonight, I think it wouldn't represent the whole, the full council wouldn't feel like it would represent the whole of the, you know, there's like obviously 15 other councillors. So, I mean, Phil, I'm sure you'd be able to and keen to input into that discussion process, conversation, meeting.
Yeah, certainly. And
well, I think we have to be very careful there that we can't have kind of interest groups. We've got to try and be as objective as we can be. And, you know, almost if we invited Phil, we'd also have to invite someone who was completely committed to 5G. So I don't think at this stage we can say that we can involve people who have a predetermined view on the situation.
Okay,
so we've got to try and do it and try and look at it in as balanced way. The only way we're going to win the argument is if we actually are able to say we have looked at this completely objectively.
I guess the information that Phil has compiled with other people, including Chris, because there's a huge amount of information that you've pulled together, isn't it? Which I think is more than any of us would be able to do, actually. So that would be part and parcel, presumably.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, I think it'd be worth sending a wider invitation out. I mean, if you don't want people to attend in person because you've got the maybe an unbalanced view, as Carrie puts it, then Annalee Fitzgerald would certainly be a worthy person. Because she put together some evidence for the 2020 Select Committee, and as she suffers from electrosensitivity herself, she would be able to give you a first-hand account. And then there's Kath Prosser in Bishopston. No, she was part of.
Sorry, can we don't need, you know, we haven't even got a decision from full council that this is even going to be done. So these are conversations we can have later.
But they're very helpful suggestions, Phil, and I think you know, ones that I can follow up with you.
If you can pass those on to Helen, that would be really helpful, but it doesn't need to be done here.
Yeah, no, that is really helpful, Phil. I mean, I'm like you in work. I've just got so many contacts. I'm constantly sharing all my contacts with everybody just to help things along. Is everyone happy with that way forward? Lydia, did you want? I mean, as the last word, did you want to come in? I'm sorry, I've not asked you to come in.
No, that's okay. I don't really feel like I have a position on it. I don't really know much about it. I did see the letter and I had a quick skim, but I didn't read it in enough detail to add anything, I don't think. And also I don't want to put my opinion out there as well, because I don't have enough information to have a valid opinion, I don't feel like. So I think it should be brought to full council. I completely agree with that, but I don't want to put my 2 pennies in when I don't really know much about it.
Fair enough, Lydia. Okay, I want to thanks. I mean, Phil, I'm sorry that we've got to move on, but I think it's really helpful information that you brought to the committee tonight. And I think I'm actually pleased that we've decided to move on in this way, that I think it'll be better to involve other people. So what I'll do is I'll feed this back to Martin and Kerry, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah. Okay, I've told Sarah she can come back now.
Okay, Phil, you're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting, or you're welcome to leave, whatever. You know, feel free to join us. Feel free to spend the rest of the night at home.
Okay, thank you. Thanks,
Phil. Thank you for coming. I'm going to
crack on. Thanks, Phil. So if we go to agenda item 1, which is apologies for absence.
Hang on, we got to wait for Sarah, or we're not for it.
Okay.
Hopefully she's I've just told her that she can come in now.
Yeah, I think COVID is doing the rounds again, isn't it?
It sure is.
Many people who are off.
Yep.
How are you feeling, Ian?
Much better, actually. Yeah, I started to turn the corner yesterday, and you know, I don't know, if I go for a run, I'll probably be hospitalised. But I think I'm all right at the moment. I'm just going to try and take it easy for the rest of the week.
Yeah.
And and
yeah,
I've got these lovely meetings to keep me busy and out of trouble, so it's all right. Yeah.
You've got plenty to be getting on with.
I've got a lot this week. I think there's not going to be any. I've got Mumbles Fest to tidy up tomorrow.
Oh,
and Wednesday there was one from Community by the Langland Tennis Court. So we've got an extra few this week, actually. Yeah.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah. You meant to have a week off, aren't you? After that, but there we are.
Yeah, never works.
Okay.
Anyway,
I'm glad we went ahead today anyway. Glad we went ahead today.
Okay. Well, hurry along, Sarah.
Yeah.
Can I crack on? Can I give apologies or not?
Well, we should really wait.
Okay.
I don't mind. Whatever you want to do.
Well, I feel I should stick by the rules.
It's only going to take a second. Well, it's only going to take 30 seconds, isn't it, to do the apologies and minutes?
Yeah, I mean
they probably take hours.
That's just passing it on for information to Ian to formally acknowledge when the meeting starts.
Yeah. Sounds good. Right.
Sorry, I'm just having a. Sarah was a bit. She's tied up with something else, so I'm saying, "Come on, we need you. Get in here."
Oh.
Just for everyone's information, I've messaged Kerry and Martin O'Neill, the chair, today, because this is before I even realised we were going to be in Cora tonight, because at that point everyone was still coming. Just to say that, we are the smallest committee, there's only 5. And like when you go through the winter period, which is normally a really important time for this committee because of budget setting and everything, I'm not going ahead with like it being in Cora at the last minute, and you're doing all of the prep.
I know.
You're inviting people along, I'm not doing that. So I've asked them for extra committee members.
The trouble is we can't, you can't force anyone to be on the committee. I wish we could.
Yeah,
but
well,
we
I'll
can't.
try. Yeah, because I think it just. Sorry?
You could do a polite suggestion.
Yeah, we've got a new councillor.
All we can do is do a call out at next full council for volunteers.
Yeah, we've got
that's all we can do.
Councillor, and I feel you know, Amelia is a new councillor, and I think there's some committees with 9 people, like culture, and I think it just has to be a bit more.
No, I don't think
Spreading.
I don't think any have got 9. I don't think any are full. They've all got vacancies, unfortunately. It's just people just seem very reluctant to get involved with committees. Right, come on, Sarah. I don't know what she's doing.
As well. I think it's either we, you know.
I was going to say we got to give her another few minutes, and then we're just going to have to call it a day if she doesn't come, because we're completely stuck.
Frustrating, isn't it?
I know. I mean, she was in before. We shouldn't have let her go.
Yeah, but then we wouldn't have wanted to.
No, but she could have gone into the waiting room.
Oh, right.
I don't know why she's not coming in. She's answered my message, but she's still not here. Ah,
Yeah,
she's here. She's here. Hooray!
Yay!
Hi.
Thanks,
Okay,
Sarah.
thank you.
Okay.
Okay, should we go through apologies then?
Yep.
Yeah. So we've got apologies from Rebecca, Mike Parkin, Kerry, Martin Russell. With regards to Martin Russell, Kerry's advised me that he'll be coming every quarter now, just in terms of trying to strike a better balance between the work that he needs to do outside, really, and him feeling that, you know, it makes him quite office space dealing with emails, and so it's really important that he has a line of sight from this committee. So I think he'll be coming almost like seasonally. So yeah, Martin's not here today, and Ed Hall, who always said all along he couldn't make the replace date. So have you got those, Ian?
I have.
Yeah,
yes.
I think you only need to record councillor apologies.
I was just going to say, if you're happy with that, it's nice to know, but it's only Rebecca and Mike we need to worry about, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, Mike and Rebecca are the only two.
Yeah.
You have to record.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay, so declarations of interest. Then minutes of the last meeting.
Right, just one thing which is kind of related to that is that under councillors present you have Will Thomas. He was actually just in attendance. He's not a committee member. So he should be down under the in attendance.
Okay.
Oh, well done, Carrie. I didn't know that. I didn't know there was a distinction. So well done.
Yeah, because people who are not on the committee don't have voting rights.
Okay.
They obviously any councillor that wants to can come, but when it comes to a vote, it's only actual official members.
No problem.
Okay. So anything more minutes?
Other than that, it's all fine.
Thank you for going through that then, Carrie. It's always good to know that you've got.
Oh right, no, sorry, the Castlewood paths. Right, what Will was talking about was a much wider. He was talking about a whole range of paths right across MCC, which were not relevant to the landfill tax grant. So at the moment it sort of says Will Thomas to provide photos and costs for Castlewood paths, which is not the case because that's already done.
Are you okay with those amends, Ian, or do you need Carrie or I just to put some phrasing across?
Yeah, basically it should be introduce the item and explain the requirement for the paths across. I mean, he sent us a list of paths, so presumably it's a matter of just putting that list in.
Okay, I'll speak to, because I wasn't at the meeting. I'll speak to Kerry about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, because otherwise it sounds like, I mean, he didn't talk about the landfill tax grant at all. That was me.
Yeah. Okay. So happy with that, Ian?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, right. So in terms of the budget monitoring report, so we thought Paul was going to be here today, didn't we, Ian?
Shall I run over
so
quickly what he said? Shall I paraphrase to the best of my ability?
yes, please, can you? I think there's two issues here. There's the budget monitoring
Sure.
report for money spent up to the current, where we are.
Yeah.
But then there's also the issue
next
I've emailed Paul about, which is the carry
Yeah.
forward.
I'll do it separately, Helen. So the first point
Thanks, Ian.
I think he made was that he was trying to explain, and I'd obviously do a much better job than I would, of how things are monitored. And basically, a budget's created or generated every January, and amounts allocated to the committees. And now, what has happened can happen, I suppose, because of everything that's gone on in the last 12 months, is that a lot of it falls back and people rely on Paul as our RFO to carry it out. But what would be good if the committees, the individual members of the committees, had more of an active role in the budgeting? And to assist with that, what Paul will do or does every month, he sends spreadsheets. And that, I mean, the key things to look at that is probably the underspending and the overspending, which you're always going to have. And I think he said there's a 10% slack, which is, understandable. And there are different reasons for that. But if there's no spending or a lot of underspending, overspending, it should generate discussion within the committee, and it should also, raise questions. So if Paul's not normally going to be here, that could create actions for me to generate and to seek answers from Paul. So there's that issue. And obviously the other thing of that is, things are allocated for the financial year. Sometimes things get rolled over to the following month. But it's just good to keep an eye on the whole thing. So I think that covers that aspect. And the budgeting monitoring report for next year, 2024-2025, is basically what happens is the budget for the future projects has to be authorized in January 2024. So what has happened in the past is that the people will make recommendations, things aren't tidied up. So in an ideal world, what will happen is recommendations will be made October, at the latest November, at this committee. They can then go forward to the full council in January with a view to it being approved, and then we reach the deadline. What's happened, I think, last year and most years is that the committee itself can't agree how to spend the budget. It hasn't been done. We then have a special meeting generated amongst ourselves. The same applies across the council. So that pushes it back. So we then, instead of having a full council meeting in January where things are decided, we have an extra special council meeting perhaps at the end of January. So what Paul has done, I don't know if he's done it already, but he is going to send out budgeting monitoring report, or proposal forms rather.
Yeah, he sent them.
He's already got them. So the idea is, to get your ideas together now, work it all out, get the detail, listening to other people like Rebecca, who's contributed to other meetings. It's important to get that detail bottomed out. So when it goes to full council, that, we know where we stand and there's no disputes in the normal way. The other added aspect to this, I think, for this year, which we haven't got the figures yet, Austrian is obviously going to go through a redevelopment process. There's going to be a lot of money with that. And I hope I'm not speaking out of turn if I say that, budgeting projects will be looked at more closely in January than they perhaps would have been, because, there's limited funds available and Austrian's going to be the priority. So in other words, get it in early, get it in really October, November at the latest, with all the proposals, the budgeting requirements, with a view to getting it to full council as a recommendation for January. So I hope that's clear. Lydia, you had your hand up. Was it something you want to ask me, or?
Yeah, you did answer my question, but I did have one more thing. You answered it already, don't worry.
Oh, right.
You're very thorough.
I have to get this COVID more often. It's wonderful. Go
I was just going to ask, what happens if in October or November we're in quorum again and we can't decide on any of our budget items?
Well, I'm determined that we won't be, Lydia.
Okay.
I'm determined that we won't be. We can't. We're not going to function like this. We can't. It's just a waste of everyone's time, not just ours, but staff, co-opted members. So let's take a assurance that we won't be in quorum again, because I just think it's very. You know,
I mean, we
not fair
can't, unfortunately, we can't, you know, say that. But I mean, what we can do, I mean, if for any reason we're unable to, then we would have to put them forwards directly to full council.
Right. Okay. Thanks, Gary. Can I? Sorry. Do you want to come in?
No, who, me? No. Yeah, I was just looking. As far as I can see, there does. This appears to include. According to one, it says year-end adjustments or invoices paid in 2023. All budget environment agreed by council to 30/06/2022, which I'm not quite sure I don't quite understand that date, has been included in the 23/24 budget.
Oh, Ian, sorry to cut across you, Carrie. Ian, Peter said he's waiting to be readmitted.
Oh. We lost him, did we?
So I noticed he'd gone. Can I make a suggestion? So I think Paul was meant to be here tonight.
Yeah.
We thought he was going to be here. Carrie, he sent you and I an email, and I have gone through all the figures, and I've got quite a lot of questions. In addition, not just about those things that you've raised, but I've been asking all summer for the list of carry forwards, like the recycling bins for West Cross that we didn't spend last year, the Klein gazebo. There's a whole load.
This is it. I'm looking at what he said. I suspect that those were all in the budget in January. They were all just taken out, along with the Castlewood part and everything else, because he says he's vied everything that was agreed.
But
so I don't quite.
I don't know if you've had the same spreadsheet as me, but there's a spreadsheet where there's peach, green and blue, and the blue was the figures where he said this money had been ring fence carried forward. And when I've previously asked him about the Klein gazebo, he has confirmed in writing that has been carried forward. So I think there's lots of things to bottom out, and I don't think Ian or Lydia are probably going to have the information. So I just wonder whether we pick this up, Carrie, with Paul directly.
Right, because I don't think I've got that.
I'll forward it on to you, because I've been asking for this for a while, and he did say, here it is, but it doesn't make it doesn't make sense. I've got lots of questions. So Carrie, could me and you, because I think your take on that would be really useful.
I think we need to arrange a meeting with Paul.
Yeah, fab.
Sorry, Helen,
to just make sure that we're absolutely clear on what has already been, what is ring fenced and what has gone.
Yeah.
Sorry, Helen, can you ask Peter to reapply or readmit to try and, because he's not on my list at all at the moment, I'm afraid.
Okay, I saw Ian is.
Yeah, I was just going to say I had a really good thank you, Lydia and Martin, today for the meeting. It was great about the bulbs, but we found we were woefully put away far too little money for the amount of bulbs we all need. I said I'll put 100 towards it out of my last year's councillor budget, which I hope Paul's varied over. And I think Rebecca said she'd do the same. But I think we really need to, if we're doing the green thing, I think it's worth investing in the bulbs this year, getting them in, and they'll, so if there's any other money that we can use for that we've got kicking around, it would be a good investment.
And hoping that any money that's kicking around will go to the paths.
Yeah,
You two are going to be
okay.
fighting. Sarah, can I make a point? So, you know, there's £500 for bulbs on one of the line, which is the amount that we have to split between wards. But
Yeah.
then there's the Wildflower Verges, wherever it's called, which is the £2,100, which kind of rotates. And I
Yeah.
think it went to Oystermouth last year, and we agreed it would be West Cross. So there is that
Okay.
money as well for the West Cross councillors.
My problem is, as I explained to Lydia today, what we want to do at either side of the green coming up Fairwood Park is to really showboat it, to make it look really, really good, because of all
Yeah.
the complaints about, oh, why is it in Mumble?
Yeah, sorry, can we, I'm not wanting to distract, but maybe this is a conversation that needs to be had at some
As
other
soon as
point.
possible, actually, because they need to
Because it's
go
not
in.
relevant to this
Okay.
item in terms of the budget.
Okay.
Sarah, I don't mind picking that up with you. I mean, you've obviously spoken to Lydia, but if it's in
Yeah.
terms of looking at the budget, I'm happy to pick that up with you.
Yeah, I was just wondering if you were looking around saying, oh, what haven't we spent? That would be useful. That would be great. So there we are. That's all I need to say.
I'm gonna. So Ian, Peter is still saying trying, but need to be admitted. It's not coming up on mine as.
No, nothing's come up saying someone waiting to be let in.
So I'm gonna try and call him in. I think it's because he hasn't got an MCC email.
No, he hasn't. No.
Right. Let's try and. Right,
anyway, if we could continue for,
Carrie, can you take over for a minute while I try and do that?
Well, he's there. He's just waiting. You just
He's
need
waiting in the
to
lobby.
click now to let him in.
Fab.
Right. Sorry, what did you want me to do?
No, that's fine. I was going to try and sort that out.
All right.
Yeah, right.
But he's here. Yeah.
Can we see him? Peter, are you
No.
there?
No, he's gone again.
Yes.
He's gone again. Ian just let him in, but he's gone.
I didn't know. No, I didn't get that far.
Oh,
I
he
thought somebody-
disappeared
I thought
before you'd
somebody else-
let him in.
Yeah, I thought somebody else had let him in, but I didn't. No.
I did. I let him in.
Oh, Helen, you let him in.
Yeah. I'm going to
He's
try.
definitely not in the waiting room.
I'm going to try and call him in.
Anyway, we could carry on because we're running out of time.
Yeah. Can you? I'm just trying to phone him in. Can you?
Right, look, he's there. Ian, can you admit him rather than anyone else? There we are, he's here. Right.
Sorry, Peter.
Right, can we carry on then?
Okay, right.
I'm
thanks.
just conscious we're running out of time.
Yeah. Okay, so can we get to the Castlewood paths? Carrie, it's your moment of. It's your moment.
Yeah, right. Right, it's not Castlewood paths, it's Castlewood and Washinghouse Brook paths. And that is key because it actually runs across both areas. And therefore, the requirement is significantly greater than would be the case if it was just Castlewoods. Now, you should all have had the sections which obviously tell you exactly what it is that's needed. I hope I know they were all in Ian's email, so I hope you've all had a chance to read them. Basically, these are paths that would provide alternative routes for people to travel to and from various shopping areas, get buses, get to school, etc., without them having to use a car. They are all what were established paths, which unfortunately, due to lack of any maintenance because money's gone elsewhere, have all fallen into disrepair. And although they can be usable in dry weather, as soon as it rains, they become just completely unpassable. So this is something I've been trying to get done for the last 4 years, and every time the money gets taken away and given to something else, and so we now have the opportunity with the landfill tax fund to apply for funding to get this work done. Now, we need match funding to support the application. I can tweak it a bit, but realistically, we need a reasonable sum of money to come from Mumbles Community Council to match the grant that is being asked for from the landfill tax. Sarah and Rebecca have agreed to contribute something from their city council budgets.
Has Rebecca actually said that to you?
Yes.
That's fine, that's fine.
Yes. we had the conversation on Friday. And she said, I mean, I don't know how much yet. I think the two of you are going to kind of work out what else is allocated. I'm hoping that Will, Francesca and Angela will also contribute from their councillor budgets. But obviously the rest needs to come from MCC. Now, yeah, this is environmental, but it also is
Health,
community and
community.
social.
Yeah.
You know, it's providing amenities, it's providing, I mean, I know a lot of people who live in Norton and further into West Cross who use those paths backwards and forwards to get to the shops in Mumbles. And at the moment, once the weather gets bad, they can't use them.
Yeah.
So that means they're taking a car and clogging up even more the parking in Mumbles to do a journey that they could easily do by foot if only there was the means of doing it. Same with Washinghouse Brook. Washinghouse Brook, you know, the people can use it to get their kids to school.
Yeah.
They can use it to get down to the bottom shops, do their shopping, walk back up safely. You know, these are exactly the sorts of things that active travel is supposed to be supporting. You know, and these are areas which, you know, are fantastic through routes for people to be able to walk, but they're also just a great way for us to encourage tourists to keep their vehicles out of the village, park them at the bottom, walk through to get into Mumbles. You know, they've got the pleasure of walking through nice woodland, you know, enjoying that rather than walking up a road, you know, and having to deal with that. So what I'm asking is that this committee commits to money that is ring fenced, and we can't wait until the budget meeting in January because we've got to get it in next month.
So can I ask a question on that? Sorry, Carrie, are you meaning money that's from this existing budget of 29k, which obviously we're already spending, or do you mean we make the commitment now, but then the project would start?
A bit of both.
Okay, and
right now you see, I'm just there is money carried forward. There's a significant chunk of money which I thought, you know, had gone, but anyway, there's small amounts which are unspent and have been carried forward as reserves.
So Carrie, how much are you I mean, I want to bring Lydia in. How much ballpark do you want this committee to?
I want them to request from full council that they ring fence £20,000.
And how much of that is from the current, and how much of that would be?
That is for Paul, as much as possible from any underspend from this year, and then the rest to be ring fenced in the budget for next year. The sooner we can get the match funding in, the sooner we can start the work.
I think it's quite difficult. Sorry, let me bring Lydia in. Go on, Lydia, you've been really patient. Thanks, Carrie.
That's okay. I really support it, and I think it's really important that we actually do try at least to get this, because it's, you know, accessible access to nature, because those paths, I agree with you, Carrie, they're just a little
awful.
Bit in disrepair. Well, not a little bit, a lot. But the main thing is there budget, is part of this budget like committed to maintenance? Because what we don't want to happen is them to be redeveloped and then left to go into disrepair again.
No,
would we maintain them, or the council?
Yeah, the grant can't provide ongoing maintenance. It is a capital, and the revenue that's required, you know, it's a time limited budget. But obviously what we would then need to do as a committee or as a council is agree, and I would hope that we could perhaps get some support from Swansea Council if we actually do all the groundwork and get them, you know, so they're safe. And, you know, they shouldn't need to be maintained, you know, that much. I mean,
No.
the ones that are there have been there probably getting on for 15 years since they were last done. Now, they probably were fine for the first 10 years.
Yeah. Just
So
that little bit of keeping an eye on it, and who would be responsible for keeping an eye, and who would
part
take.
of it obviously is us building that in to some extent into our volunteer program. So, you know, as well as, you know, volunteers doing the different sites, we all say, right, today we're going to just do the bit between the community orchard and the nature reserve, and we're going to just do a bit of weeding along those paths just to cut back the brambles.
Yeah. Okay, so thank you, Carrie. I think, yeah, I'm really keen to bring Sarah in because there's a lot to get through. Lydia, do you feel that answers your question?
Yeah, that's fine. I just wondered if it was our responsibility or someone else's, but if it is
probably ours,
we can.
I think it will end up being ours, and we'll have to have a sinking fund that we just make sure we have ready, just so they don't get to that state again. And that's the washing house brook and around the castle. Yeah.
Oh, what was your question?
My main concern was. Oh, sorry.
No, go on, Lydia, just finish your point. Sorry, your point.
My main concern was adding to Martin's workload. That was my concern.
Yeah. No, we can't. It would need to be, you know, something that was built in to either to his work program, but, you know, on a much longer term basis. But ideally, in terms of it being built into our volunteer program. But also, I would like to think we might shame Swansea Council into at least, you know, I know they're shameless, and I know they don't care.
No, they've got no money.
No, I know, but you know, we all live in hope that, you know, in a couple of years there might be more money coming. You know, we live in hope.
Let's have your question. Let me get to a decision.
Sorry, I was just going to ask: have the Newton and Oystermouth agreed to, the councillors agreed for helping the funding?
No, that's what it's you know what it's like, well, how much are the West Cross councillors giving, and then we'll decide how much we're giving. So
because the worst scenario to justify would be if we go all in and they just rely on their part being done by the community council. It's a bit
well, that would involve some significant public shaming.
Okay. I don't want that.
Thanks, Sarah. I've got a final question, and I just wonder if you know, Peter or Chris have got any points. So I walked Washington House Brook past quite often. On a Wednesday, I walk the dog there with Jackson Karate. So what's the fabric are we looking at? We're not looking for anything too intrusive like concrete. Obviously, we're looking for lower impact.
We're looking at how the ones in Castle Woods were originally done. Was they were cleared, wooden edging put in,
right? Okay, yeah.
Sunk in to make a clear definition of the paths, and then it was like chippings, which were then kind of pummeled into the ground with one of those machines that you know goes like that, and then you put a layer of something on top,
organic,
which, you know, but it would be it would be chippings, stone chippings probably is the most likely, because they are the most sort of robust, but they wouldn't be loose because then they become dangerous for people walking on. So they would be, but it would be sufficient to you know, enable a safe path and would be protected from the weather. But I mean, it's something that, you know, I would like to think we would all look at in terms of, you know, what is the best. I mean, there are amazing things that are made up from recycled plastic that actually glow in the dark.
Let's not put any plastics in there.
Okay, I'm going to hand over to Sarah again.
Just to ask, it is going to be porous. That would be my main concern, that whatever.
Absolutely.
That's fine.
Yeah, that's why it's got to be chippings or something like that, because you've got to be able to let the water drain out of it,
Yeah.
rather than the problem at the moment is that the paths have got covered in, you know, clay mud and the water just sits on top of them. So it's making sure that it's a porous surface that the water drains out of.
Okay, thank you, Carrie. Peter and Chris, any thoughts from yourself? I know, Chris, it's not your area, but you know, you've always got useful advice. And
yeah, no, I was thinking is if the West Cross councils put in, Noismouth ones don't, then just do Washenhouse Brook.
Well, that is an option, or put most, but it doesn't, you know, it doesn't address the issue that, you know, we're
so
trying to address.
keen to do this. And I think craftily, the council didn't vote on it last year, and now she's craftily weaving it back in. But Carrie, I do support the project. I think I you know, would very much support it at council, because obviously I'm very much in favour of the argument you've presented. I think what I would need to do is let you and I talk to Paul about what ring fence carry forward there is, because if that 20, I mean, our whole budget for this year is 20 grand, and I wouldn't be in favour of stripping money away from things that have been agreed to fund that. But I would be in favour of, if there's big overspends that we're unlikely to spend, let's try and use that money in a way that we're going to lever in additional money. I think that's the
But most
crux,
importantly, we need to have that conversation before full council, because what we most importantly need is the commitment that it will go into the budget for next year.
Yeah.
If we can get a commitment that that will be ring fenced for next year, subject to any underspend available from this year, will reduce that requirement for next year.
Fab. So I'll as an action, I'll email you and Paul, and we'll have that conversation about that.
Fix the meeting this week.
Yeah. Fab. Okay. Well, let's try and do it on Friday if we can, possibly.
Can't do Friday. I'm in London.
Okay.
It's got to be before Friday.
Oh, hell's bells. Okay.
I know, sorry.
Sarah, is that an old hand?
Yeah. No, it's not. I was just wondering, is there any chance we could approach, is it Cadwa, the Welsh for the castles?
Cadw.
Yeah, Cadw. And ask them if they're willing to give a little money towards the paths around the castle, because they might. No?
It's worth it, yeah, but I would suspect that if there was that option, the council would have got that money when they had the work done on the castle in the first place.
You think? Okay, I just thought it might be worthwhile selling, because it is a tourist thing, as you said.
Yeah.
And it.
No, I mean, we can ask.
Yeah,
but it's timing.
It's timing.
Okay,
now.
I'm going to wind this item up. So, Carrie, you need an official vote on this, don't you?
Yes.
So, those in favour of the proposal that Carrie's put forward to the council, raise your hands. And those not in favour, any abstentions? Fine, like the motion is carried. Carrie, well done. You're still in it. You're still in it, Carrie.
Oh, I just can't see it ever happening.
Helen, can I just check the recommendation for full council is that it goes ahead, but it'll be prior to that there'll be discussion about the amounts involved. Is that okay? It's
a recommendation that we ring fence £20,000 to support the grant application, which is going in November. That this would be ring fenced out of next year's budget, subject to any underspend from this year, which would reduce that figure accordingly.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. So we've got 20 minutes left. I think we've done the 5G mast. Groundsperson is in here, so we can strike that. It's really important I talk about the Klein gazebo. Lydia, we've all had your report, thank you. Did you want to, I mean, there's a lot that you cover, isn't it? Is there any questions to Lydia? Maybe that's the way to approach it. Are there any specific questions to Lydia about the work?
All I will say is I would recommend that Lydia puts in a request, because I'm conscious that our next meeting will be, no, we should still have time, but just to raise that we have put in a request for a stall at the Environment Centre Green Fair.
Yeah. So what do we need to, I think that's a good idea, and obviously saw the emails. Does that need to go to full council for any reason?
No, but it's just to flag up here that, you know, anybody who's got any ideas of what we want on that stall and what the focus will be, you know, bring them to the next meeting at the end of October for us to, for Lydia to kind of be able to work on, and she will need volunteers to help her.
Yeah, I'll need volunteers to help me if anyone's happy to do that, and yeah, just ideas. So either email me or bring it to the next council meeting.
I think after 12 hours on the Mumbles Fest stand, which I actually did really enjoy, but I think
well done, thank you.
I've done my bit. Peter.
Yes, thank you. And apologies for disappearing from the meeting. But the good news was I missed the budget debate, which was probably I don't know what happened, but anyway, I'm back. What I wanted to comment on, not a question, but more of a comment perhaps, is with reference to the Biodiversity Action Plan, which I've read mostly, and I think very impressed by it, Lydia, but we're very well done for the work that you've clearly put in on that. And Lydia will know that I and I think Rian and Natasha Dodds from the Environment Centre, we came to a meeting a few weeks ago to talk in particular about our big climate leap.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to use this opportunity to impress upon the committee, if it needs to be impressed, of the importance of this work and how fundamental it is. And we're very pleased that Mumbles Community Council is one of what we're calling our pilot groups in order to try to develop a methodology that we can then apply more widely to other groups across Swansea. And the Big Climate Leap is committed to working with a number of organisations to achieve a 25% reduction in carbon emissions over a 5-year period. That's presumably up to 2028. And obviously we're still learning quite how to do that. And therefore it's very useful to be able to work with what I regard as sympathetic organisations such as MCC in order to carry that study forward before we go out into the perhaps less sympathetic wider world outside across Swansea. But this is a very important project, as I'm sure everybody realises. It's 750, sorry, I'm getting too optimistic. It's 350,000 over 5 years. I wish it was 750, anyway, it's 350,000 over 5 years, which is a big grant for the Environment Centre, and a wonderful opportunity for us to work with organisations across Swansea, including MCC. So wearing my Environment Centre hat, and we're looking forward to working with you guys. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
brilliant.
You, can I just quickly mention on that? I think it's really important as part of that I will go through it once we're fully part of it, and I will add it to an agenda for an environmental committee meeting. But I think it's really important that all councillors and all bodies associated with Mumbles Community Council understand it, and I think it should be something that gets added to full council, and is also all councillors are encouraged to do any kind of training that comes along with it. Just even if they're not interested, I think it's really important that everyone understands about it, because otherwise it doesn't work. So
couldn't agree more, Lydia. Absolutely, massively well said, and thanks, Peter, because I don't really know about it. I've heard it, and so I think that's really useful summary, and definitely need to get it on the committee, maybe October, get it on the full council, because Sarah, you've put an agenda item about carbon literacy training that kind of is towards the end. I'd emailed Martin and Kerry on the back of coming from CAT. Obviously I've been to CAT millions, well, loads of times, not quite millions, but many times, and went there with work very recently, and it just kind of completely just reinforced in my head, this would be great for some of us in MCC, even the people who are not champions at the moment, I think, but maybe curious, like Mike. I think, you know, so I think there's lots of potential little ideas there to kind of just talk around, isn't it, and get a bit of a clear way forward. So thank you, Peter and Lydia. Carrie, did you want to come in on this?
This is just basically a correction, which I can sit down with Lydia. Did you write it, or did Kerry do it, or is it a joint thing, Lydia? The Biodiversity Action Plan.
No, I wrote it.
Right, it's just a correction on that. We don't actually have a community asset transfer for the sites. It's just so I'll just email you with the corrections. I just was worried we don't want to send it off and, you know, Swansea Council get you know, somebody gets uppity saying, why are you saying that, you know, when they're not. So
okay,
Thanks, Carrie.
thank you.
I'll just
Peter?
correct it. It's basically we have permission to manage them. We don't actually have a community asset transfer agreement on them.
Okay, that's
Right.
helpful. I didn't realise that.
I was
Yeah,
thinking
Peter?
So
that
I'll
was
just
somewhere
I'll
else.
just
I was
email
thinking-
you with how it should be.
I'm going to bring in
Yeah.
Peter now. I'm sorry, because I know I'm cutting across
Very,
people,
very, very
but we are
quickly,
short
Helen.
of time.
Very, very quickly, just to say that I'm sure Natasha, who is leading the project for the environment, and Natasha Rosewood Dodds, would be very, very happy to come and talk either to this committee or to indeed your full council about
Brilliant.
the project in due course. After all, what the project is about is awareness raising in terms of carbon emission reduction and how to do it. So if you would like to invite Natasha,
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure she would accept. Okay.
that's a really good idea. And I just wonder if we could link that to the Mumbles Green Hero thing, possibly, Lydia.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's not get into that.
We
That's
can have a
another.
separate conversation about that, Helen.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah,
Might be
so
worth having a meeting about that.
Yeah. So fantastic. So Lydia, is there anything else you wanted to raise? I just want to thank you again for all the hard work you do. I have one question. So you know the fact that you featured at the outdoor summer of fun events.
Yep.
Were you invited to the Newton one?
No, I only attended the ones that I was invited to, which was West Cross and Males.
So I think that's a big issue, because to me this reinforces the kind of point that we're talking around really now about a whole council approach, and those summer of fun events should have all been, like, all of our activities having environment as a core component in terms of messaging. So I wasn't sure if you weren't able to attend just because of diary clash or if
Well,
you
it was
hadn't
a
been
bit
asked.
of both. I did consider that. I did consider offering to do it. However, I didn't have time. I think I was doing something at that point, and also I didn't have time at that time of year to be planning and doing another one. To be honest, so
Okay, so maybe slightly more gentle.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I will pick that up with Kerry, and I think that's a conversation around this big leap where if you have a declaration of climate emergency, it's not just the Environment Committee, as you were saying, Lydia, that needs to take action. It's not going to work if everybody else ignores it. Anyway, so Lydia, is that your item finished? Oh, Sarah, go on.
No, I was just going to say, going back to the training talk that I wanted everybody to do, I would have loved everyone to have actually been made to do it and say this is essential, because we're doing the big climate leap and because we really all need to be singing from the same hymn sheet. Because I think if it's done well, and I think it will inspire the people who have perhaps been blinkered about it up until now. And we really need everyone to be educated on this. Sorry, I know we haven't got much time.
No, I think, sorry, I really, when I saw you write the thing on the end, I thought, I 100% agree with you. And I think let's pick this back up, because as I said, I'd emailed, coincidentally, I'd emailed Martin and Kerry about the same thing. So let's pick this up in the context of the Big Leap Forward conversations, and it's quite a big issue, isn't it, for us to tackle. Thank you, Lydia.
Can I just mention one thing as part of my item? Litter picking hub. I know the launch didn't go to plan. However, we are still opening as a litter picking hub. So that's happened. We haven't officially opened yet, but it's happening. We have all of the equipment. We are officially a litter picking hub. However, I need to advertise it and get us put on the list for through Swansea Council. But that's the big one of the new updates as part of our Keep Wales Tidy efforts.
And before Carrie comes in, so how do people know then? Will we have a massive sign on the big plastic notice board outside?
Yeah, there'll be. I've been given some resources by Keep Wales Tidy that I need to promote and send out. So yeah, there's posters. There'll be social media posts, website, and then also we'll be added to the list of litter picking hubs in Swansea on Swansea Council's website. And yeah, if anyone has any other ideas about promoting it, it was supposed to be a big event promoting it. Well, not a big event because it was on Thursday, but an event promoting it, but it didn't go to plan.
I tell you what, we'll come up with something, Lydia, because I think we do need to have a bit of a creative, crazy splash around this. And in terms of the comms, does this only come from the MCC environmental social media platform, or does it come from the main MCC platform?
Everything that I post, unless it's just a little update, like of what's going on in the green spaces, what goes on our website and the MCC.
The main MCC page, yeah. Facebook page.
So any updates that I do, unless they're just like little updates about Norton Nature Reserve or whatever, just go on. They go on everything.
Oh, good, because I'm really keen that, you know, that the main social media platform doesn't just promote Mumblesfest and the culture stuff. It promotes all of the activities, not just skate park and all of that. Carrie, thank you, Lydia.
Yeah,
is this
just sorry,
Lydia?
Very briefly about litter picking hub. Some of it has already been covered now, but yeah, we need a big splash. Yeah. You know, we need to do something that puts everything, you know, really puts us on the map that we are now a litter picking hub. But another thing I was thinking, it links in with the weeding as well. I was thinking as I weeded away on Sunday morning in the rain, that, you know, maybe we should be involving schools, that we try and organise like a litter pick with each of the schools in turn.
Oh, good idea. Yeah.
Or the same with the weeding, that they come out and do, you know, an afternoon, you know, weeding bits of the street, and, you know, we get lots of nice pictures, because, you know, we know that a lot of what we're doing is supporting the schools, and the schools support it. No,
Sarah's got such a right expression.
Because we went into Clonderw and we have absolutely brainwashed them that they are not weeds, they are wildflowers, and we should love them, and they are You're going to get so much trouble from the kids because they know their own mind, and they'll be saying, "How very dare you! Dandelion feeds this many bugs."
Oh dear. Maybe we can ask the other schools.
Yeah, I tell you what, all you got to do is give a kid a grabber, and they're there. Kids love those grabbers. All peer secretaries are loppers. I know it's like not health and safety.
Yeah, you know, we can maybe give the schools certificates or something they can put up, you know, to say, you know, they've collected so many bags of rubbish.
Thing that I have been doing is with plastics free communities. I've been trying to restart the plastic free Mumbles thing, and there's plastic free schools, and there's certain things that we need to achieve for plastic free communities, and one of those is community allies, which can be schools. So we could do that as part of that. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, I think that's all that's all my things on that item.
Okay,
Thanks.
I am going to move us on. Thanks, Lydia, and thank you for everything you do, because you're extremely diligent and work to a high level. So just to give you some feedback there, thank you. Right, let's just check where we are with the agenda. So grounds person, can we cover Klein Gazebo? I don't think we're going to get through committee work plan, because there's a few things I want to raise. I want us to start thinking about the buzz and bloom, the gardener's question time, those ideas are towards the end of our work programme here. I want us to start thinking about planning those out, but we're not going to get that done today, I don't think, meaningfully. The environmental questionnaire, I think I'll just park for the time being. That was just an idea I had. When we go live with the Ostream consultation, I just felt that we could ask the community some broader questions around what do they want for the environment in the village centre, because I get quite a lot of complaints about how scruffy it is, how much litter there is. It does not look attractive a lot of the time, and Ostream will really improve that. So I just think whether it's a nice to do. It's definitely not a must do. And I think if we just feel we're too busy, it's something that we just don't bother taking forward. But if you were wondering what that item was, I'm happy to park it, and it's something we can pick up another day, perhaps.
I think it's probably something that Down to Earth will do, but it may be worth us just flagging it up to Down to Earth.
Yeah,
you know, we're paying them to do the consultation, so maybe we just need to flag up with them. Could they include in the consultation, you know, whatever it is that
I think, I'm sorry, Helen, I think the Environment Centre will actually, with a big leaf, will also be, they seem very excited about working with them. And I think this would be one of the things they probably would be interested in keeping a close eye on.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Okay, just with Klein Gazebo then. So just to give you a bit of context, so there is news on this. So somebody suggested a wooden gazebo or shelter at Klein to replace the plastic tents that we constantly paying for when erected and get blown away in the wind. That was kind of passed over to me as Mail's chair of Environmental Committee. And in February last year, the money of 6k, which had previously been in the Social Committee, Social and Community Committee, was transferred on request from somebody else into our committee. So through this time, there's been a little kind of core group of myself, Friends of Klein Gardens, Tavion and Kate Coyden-Vach in the touring tea room, just trying to progress this. We've got some really nice plans, which I could send you around, amazing designs. We've done a procurement exercise. The cheapest by far is Dragonfly Creative, and they're really fantastic rustic wooden designs, potentially with a reclaimed slate roof or green roof. So that's all been bubbling over in the last 3 months. I mean, Chris, I've spoken to Chris a few times about it. So where we've got to, we weren't sure if we needed planning permission, and an email had gone to Rebecca and Carrie, I think over a year ago, suggesting that we didn't. So we have double checked that, because we didn't want to be in a position of getting caught out. And I've gone to all sorts of levels in Swansea Council. And the email, after tons of chasing over the summer, the email 2 weeks ago was, yes, you will need planning permission. So that's fine. So what I wanted to get MCC's views on, so it was an idea that Carrie suggested to me a while back. We got 2 options. Either MCC puts in our planning application. I've got no experience of doing it. I guess I'd have to do it with Kerry, whoever else. I've absolutely no idea how it works. Or Carrie had suggested to me is the £6,000 that we've got in our budget. So that the cost of the whole thing, I think it's 10.5, right? So Chris has kindly committed 2k. We've committed 6, and the rest is coming from Friends of Klein themselves. So one idea that Carrie had was whether we actually hand the whole thing over to Friends of Klein to take it forward in terms of having a bit more drive, a bit more of a single focus, that sort of thing. So I chatted to Richard this morning, Richard Owen, who's chair of Friends of Klein. He would obviously need to check that with his own group, but he was definitely interested in the idea. But then I said I was bringing it tonight, so I just like to get your take. Are you quite keen to kind of see somebody else take it forward, or are you very keen to keep this with MCC in the lead? Sarah, put her hands up first.
Yeah, I'm a bit worried because after Underhill, I know it's not in any size or shape, and we'll have a plan and everything, but I'm always a bit concerned in case the money goes there and then they go, well, we're doing this now and we've changed that, we're doing something different and we've lost control.
Yeah.
So that would be my only concern.
Yeah, that's a good point. Thanks, Sarah. Carrie?
Yeah, I'm completely the opposite. I think we have to pass this over. We don't have the resources to maintain it. If anything happens, if it gets damaged, we do not want to be the people that they're ringing up and saying, come and fix this gazebo. We have to, my view would be that we say that we would look very favourably on Klein Friends applying for a grant from MCC for the amount that we have available. Then we then give them that grant and they will pursue it from there. Because I think otherwise, planning is, we would end up being responsible. And I just don't feel that we have the time or the resources, either staff-wise or financially, to actually look after a gazebo in what ultimately is Swansea Council's property.
Well, can I just answer that question? So I have asked that, I've asked Kerry Davis that question, and he indicated they'd be willing to undertake low-scale ongoing maintenance.
Then that's a deal they can do with
yeah, absolutely.
Friends of Klein,
yeah.
Which is perfect. That's
I just
a
need to let
good
my dog
selling
out.
point to
Sarah,
Friends
and
of
then
Klein.
I definitely want to bring Chris in, if that's okay.
Yeah. Sorry, and then I've got to go, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
To be honest, I'm sort of easy either way.
Yeah. And Helen's run away.
Will it be insured?
And to let my dog out.
Very dark.
Oh.
Will it be insured? Because I'm a bit concerned in case something gets burnt down. Because stuff has got burnt down before.
That's why we do not want the responsibility for it.
I can see your point, Carrie. So maybe we will have to do that and let them be the ones to deal with it.
I think, you know, they have a vested interest in everything that goes on in Clyne. And they've got the support of Victoria in the tea room and Kate and Coinvar. And I just think, you know, this is our, you know, we should be facilitating. We shouldn't be running everything. And if we can actually, you know, make sure they have the resources to go ahead with it, then I think that's a really important way to work.
Community that feel very strongly about the park and the area. So I think they'd be more likely to step in and help as well.
Absolutely.
So, you're probably right.
And what are your thoughts, Chris?
Yeah, I was saying I was happy either way, but yeah, if the friends want to take it on, then that's probably the best way forward.
Yeah, I think once we get, you know, hopefully once, I mean, at the moment we've just been, you know, trying to find a supplier, looking at designs. It's all been very light touch exploration, trying to find our feet a bit. I've done absolutely tons and tons of chasing on this, but that's right. I think there's a little group of us then that could kind of take it forward. Kate from Coeden has obviously got the experience of permanent planning which wasn't a happy experience for her. It was a very, very difficult experience, actually. I think she's quite, I think it wasn't pleasant.
I suspect it was nothing compared to our experience with the skate park.
That's probably true.
Which we still bear the scars from.
I think what it would be helpful then is if I report this back to Richard. I said I will do that tomorrow morning. And Chris, you know, I'm always sort of keen to keep you involved if that's okay, and you don't feel I'm pestering you or, you know, sending you emails and okay, so if I set out that we're very open to that idea, let's start exploring it then.
Yeah.
And just to kind of assuage Sarah's concerns, the whole kind of siting of it and the design and all of that has been around conditions of trying to prevent as much antisocial behaviour, you know, siting it opposite the toilets on the main walk through where there's likely to be more people, not tucked away somewhere. So we are trying to kind of factor in those things.
Yeah, good. That's good. That's good. I'm surprised that they needed planning to any great degree, because
I'm surprised.
Electricity in there.
It's a very, you know, it's absolutely. What I'll do right on the MCC WhatsApp group, this environment group, I'll send you the photos that we've had from it's absolutely beautiful.
I've seen all the plans. They're great, but you know, I just feel it's not something that we can long term take responsibility for.
No, you're probably right, because the finances are where they are. We couldn't afford to keep them year after year.
I'm super keen that MCC is still like linked to it in a big way.
We
put the lion's share of the money in, and I think we've worked really hard on it.
You know, that's our big. That's how we should be working as MCC. We should be enabling. We shouldn't be running everything.
I agree with that. Okay. We've got to the end of the meeting.
And I was going to say, I know Sarah wants her training.
Thanks, Sarah.
But I have to go, otherwise.
I gotta go.
Yeah, no, thank you. You guys go. I think in terms of the agenda, we've come to the end. There was like those items I said we just wouldn't get to at the end. Chris, Lydia, Peter, anything over and above what we've covered? I know we can't do any official AOBs, but is any sort of final comments?
No, nothing.
Well, I would say thank you very much for coming along.
Right, I've got to go. Sorry.
Bye, Carrie.
Bye. Right, Helen. Just try and fix a meeting with Paul. I can juggle around. No, I can't. Yeah, it's only really Tuesday or Wednesday, but I could do online on Thursday.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks all. Chris, thank you so much. Ian and Lydia. I think it was a better meeting than we were expecting when we just realised there was hardly going to be anybody here.
Thanks, Helen.
Well, Helen, I'll knock out a few things. Lydia, are you in the office tomorrow? Or
No.
are you contactable? I just want to
I'm
couple of
working,
queries.
but I'm not in the office.
I'll
Is that
give you a
sorry?
call if that's all right. I've just got a couple of queries about what you're doing for the minutes. So I'll double check with you. Is that okay?
Yeah,
And,
no worries.
What I'll
Give me
do,
a call.
Helen, I'll knock out the draft set and then I can forward them to you later. Is that okay?
Hang on, so who's writing the minutes?
No, I'll do the minutes and then I'll forward them to you when I've done a
Oh
draft.
yeah, no
set,
problem. Yeah, that's no problem. Yeah.
Friday's meeting about the agenda.
Oh yes.
Would you mind if I didn't come? Only because I'm way on overtime.
Yeah,
I'm trying
yeah.
not to work on a Friday.
No problem.
I can
Lydia.
I'll send you an email with anything that any suggestions that I have, if that's okay.
Yeah,
Just
I
because-
think tonight has given us a good frame for that meeting. So no, yeah, just you do that over email and I'll come and meet Ian.
Fabulous, thank you.
Thanks so
All
much
right.
for
Are you
coming.
coming into the office, Helen? So just so I know, I'll probably be okay then. What time suits you? I know you're busy on a Friday
10
morning.
o'clock.
So
10
are you going to
o'clock.
be? Is that too early for you?
Oh God,
You
no.
sure?
I could take my kids to school at
Okay.
8:15. 8:15.
All right. Well, that's 10 o'clock's great then.
Thanks, Ian.
All right. Bye.
Thank you both
Yeah.
very much.
Thanks,
Okay.
guys. See you.
Bye.
Bye.